Are you seeing progress in the mirror, but people still don't seem to notice that you lift? It's likely because you focus too much on the quote-unquote basics and so fail to grow the most eye-catching muscles that make you look strong and imposing even in a t-shirt. Abs and pecs are awesome, but obsessing over them like many gym goers do is not gonna make you look very big in your day-to-day life. That's exactly why I created this program that I call the Duke of the Yoke. So this program is designed to help you build a powerful physique that will attract glances from the ladies, but mostly from your gym bros, of course, because we all know how it goes in real life. The program is quite similar from the one I designed for myself during my first year of lifting, and I quickly got results. So before discussing the rep scheme, intensity techniques, and what you should also do outside of the gym, let's have a look at the exercise selection. When you see those grayed out areas, it means you don't do that exercise on that day. And some of them you would do at every session because they are important and you can easily recover from them. I like to do what I call functional warm-ups. So instead of just walking on the treadmill, I would walk before my gym session, and so I would already be quite warm. And then I would do hyper extensions, so it's a good way to warm up while taking care of your lower back. Maybe a few other exercises like adductor machine, things like this. I prefer to warm up that way. And that's also why I start with the neck. That's a way to further warm up while already putting in the useful work for the yoke. At the beginning I would be cautious and maybe use very low weights and basically spam the reps to even 30 reps. I bought a neck harness, and since I only have 8 kilos kettlebell, I'm basically spamming 100 reps on this thing. You can feel a really nice burn and it's definitely working. When you talk to someone, most of what you see in terms of muscularity is basically the neck and the upper traps, and yet nobody trains their neck. Then for the first big exercises we start with the pecs. Even though I wouldn't say it's the most important part for the yoke, you still want to have this upper pec developed, because besides the neck and the traps, this is also what's gonna show. And when people see you from the side, the upper pec is gonna be important. So we start with an incline press, obviously, and I put dumbbell because the dumbbell gives you a little bit more freedom to move and it can be a little bit more joint friendly compared to the barbell or even a machine. It depends on the machine. You have to test them and see if they agree with you, with your joints, with your leverages. And then after the press you have a fly variation. So here I put the bent arm pec deck. So I'm talking here about this version with pads, and basically you have your arms like this. And then a cable fly. Obviously, if you want to emphasize even more the upper chest, you would rather do them from a low position to a high position. If there are not many people at your gym and you have the opportunity to do so, you could superset it with, for example, the mid-trap exercise. So you would do the dumbbell press and then directly go to your chest supported row. So basically after your press, you would go for a pull, and that would complement each other pretty well, and you don't waste time. So here you see for the mid traps I placed 2 exercises: the wide grip row with the cable or any kind of rowing machine where you can have a wide grip, or a chest supported row that can allow you to maybe put a little bit more weight. You notice that I didn't put a back section to this program because it doesn't make sense. It's divided between mid traps, upper traps and lats because these are different muscles. And when you group them together, you tend to neglect some of them, typically the traps. Then for the delts, we have 4 exercises. The face pull and the lateral raise you do every session, because I think the face pull is a great one also just for the health of your joints and your rotator cuff. You do that more like for a pump in your real delts and your traps as well. Lateral raise the same, you would do on every session because it's just so easy to recover from it. You could lateral raise every day. So it wouldn't make much sense to not put them just because you do other exercises like the overhead press. And speaking of the overhead press, this is the next exercise, but with a twist, let's say. So it's overhead to behind the neck press. You basically start in this position, but then you go behind the neck. Obviously, you may have to build to it if you don't have the shoulder mobility yet. Really start light with the empty bar or even just with a stick, and every day do some mobility exercise for your shoulder joints. We have two exercises that target the rear delts, the face pull and the reverse fly. So we ensure that we are working all the heads of the shoulder through the week. For the upper traps, I start with the upright row. You could argue it's more of a delt exercise, but depend a bit of how you grip, your morphology as well. Before getting the groove with the upright row, I was testing quite a lot, and finally I found the right stance and the right distance between my hands to very comfortably do it with a lot of weight even. Then we have the power shrug. The idea with this one is that you put much more weight than you would normally, but you help yourself a little bit with your legs. You cheat basically. But this cheating allows you to put so much more weight that it's going to be beneficial for your traps. Because one of the functions of your traps is to ensure that you don't have your shoulder falling to the ground when you hold something very heavy. So they react very well to being stretched under very heavy loads. It's the same idea with the loaded carry. Grab two heavy dumbbells, just go around the gym, and it's also gonna work your whole body, because while you walk with this heavy load you have to stabilize, so it's gonna work your abs as well, your grip, your shoulders. Then we have the lats. Pull up, I would advise to play around with the different grips, what agrees with you the best. And then the pull down, so it's gonna be the same movement pattern, but with the pull down you have different handles. So with the pull down I would advise the V handle, so you can do it neutral like this, and you can go more down to your pecs. Obviously on the days you do pull-ups or chin-ups, you don't do the pull down. The pull down could be a good way for you to try to overload a bit, try to progress with the weight, because the pull-up you cannot really modify the weight, it's your body weight, so you may not even be able to do it. If you cannot do the pull-up, just do the pull downs on every session. And then we have the pullover, the great overall upper body builder. People argue about it. Is it a pec exercise? Is it a lats exercise? Is it a tricep exercise? The truth is that it's all of them. Depending on the way you do it, you will bias one of them more. To bias the lats, you want to make sure you don't bend the elbow, of course. Otherwise, it's a tricep exercise. So you keep your arms pretty rigid, you go deep behind your head, and when you go back up, you don't go further than your face. Play around again with different ways to do it. In my case, I only do it with the barbell now. Then for the arms, we have two exercises for each part. The hammer curl is gonna work, of course, also your biceps, but it's gonna put more emphasis on the brachialis and brachioradialis. Reverse curl, it's a staple for forearms. Overhead extension is gonna be your go-to triceps builder because it's focusing on the long head of the triceps, which is the biggest meat there. The JM press is gonna give you another kind of stimulus for the triceps and work a little bit more the other heads as well. The incline curl is gonna target more your long head of the biceps, and the preacher curl more the short head. The core and the legs, as you can see, I put them on almost every session because even though this is a yoke workout, you still want to train your legs, especially the glutes actually, because from the side the glutes are gonna give you some 3D look. So that's why I put the RDL, the Romanian deadlift. It's an overall great posterior chain builder. It's gonna work your lower back, your glutes, your hamstrings. Then the leg extensions. If you've ever done leg extensions, you know just how crazy they burn your quads. And then for the abs, we have the leg raise, the decline sit-up, and the wood chopper. The leg raise is going to work a bit more the lower part of your abs, and the wood chopper is going to work your rotational strength and your obliques and your serratus. So with this program, you basically hit every part of your body. So now to the rep scheme and intensity techniques. If you are transitioning to being an intermediate, you could add more sets than what I do here. You could add one day here with a little magic. So by heavy, medium and light, what do I mean? It's about the rep scheme and the weights you are dealing with, but also about the goal of the session. So heavy is gonna be about trying to push yourself to lift bigger weights. Light would be about refining your technique, recovering, getting a pump as well, also building your overall endurance. So you see, for medium I put rest pose. It's an intensity technique in which you perform your set and then you take 10 to 20 seconds of rest, and then you do again another set, as many reps as you can to failure. It's time saving, it's also foolproof, meaning that you are really certain that you hammered your muscle. There's no escape. If you do the same amount of reps, for instance, it really means your first set was not intense enough. So it's also gonna show you how to gauge your effort. On the neck, I don't really see the point of using rest pose. If you are not used to train it at all, maybe stick to those rep ranges. So, you know, you don't have to stick to the rep ranges. It just means that on that day, you do that kind of effort, but obviously just use common sense. So for the pecs, as you can see, I don't put very low reps on the heavy day. For the shoulder, it can be a little problematic if you try to use very heavy loads. So I stick to 8 for the dumbbell press, and then for the bent arm pec deck, I put 10. I wouldn't put much lower. On the light day, I go to 15 for the dumbbell press and 20 for the bent arm pec deck. So then it's really like pump territory. 15 to 20, I'm still focused when I finish those. This can be dependent on the person, so if you really cannot stand to go that high in the rep ranges, you could say 12 and 15. On the medium day, I put one rest pose set for each exercise. So when you see a F, it means basically failure. So one set of 8 reps plus a short rest and just as many reps as you can. Usually, if the weight you used for the set is adequate, then you shouldn't really be able to do much more than, let's say, 50 to 70% of your first reps. So for the mid traps, you can see I put a bit lower rep ranges. If you fail, you just basically drop the weight. You're not in a compromised position like in a press. So that's why I put 6, which is also not so low. As I said before, try to superset it with your dumbbell press. Superset as many exercises as you can, as long as the muscles involved do not overlap too much, and this way you can save a lot of time. Also, you don't have to really strictly follow this exercise order. It's always better to start with the muscles you want to focus on the most. For example, in my case, I typically start with my weighted pull-ups because I really want to try to bring my lats up now. All of these muscle groups here are going to be important for the yoke, so depending on your need, you may change the order. For the delts, we can see a bit more volume. So on the medium day, it's a pretty busy day for the shoulders, and you have this killer here, the lateral raises with rest poses, and you basically do 3 poses. So it's really gonna burn your shoulders, this one. That's why we have this little emoji there. And then one set of overhead to behind the neck press with 8 reps. you don't use that much weight. You probably start with the empty bar and then one set of reverse flies for a little focus on your rear delts. Upper traps, we have the upright row, 2 sets of 10. Then the power shrug, you feel such a good stretch and burn when you do that one that I really like to extend the sets a bit more with it. So then the loaded carry, I put 1 round, 2 rounds of your gym, but obviously it depends how big your gym is. If you can buy straps, it can really help a lot with this exercise, just like with the power shrug. Obviously I forgot to mention it, but you should have straps to do these, because your grip is gonna fail you much faster than the muscles you try to work here. Then for the lats, the pull-up and chin-up, obviously it depends a bit on your current level. Like I said before, if you cannot do pull-ups yet, just stick to the pull-downs, but you can keep the same rep range, I would say. Try to aim for 6 to 8. And if you can do the pull-ups and chin-ups, let's say 15 clean reps, then you switch to the weighted pull-up or chin-up, and you try to aim for 6 to 8 reps. The pull-down on the medium day, I put with 3 rest poses. Trying to overload it like that with this intensity is gonna help your pull-ups. Then the pullover, I don't put too low rep range, because I think you can be a bit in a compromised position with a very heavy load. You know, you have the barbell in front of your skull at some point. And then yeah, up to 20 on the light day. It's a good bump you can have, and you can feel the stretch on the lats and try to connect with them a bit more. For the arms, since the program is already quite heavy for your elbow, I would rather stick to 8 or 10 for the heavy day. It's good to focus a little bit more on the triceps. It's gonna put more mass on your arms, and it's gonna be also giving you more of this 3D look from the side as well. I don't put a rest pose on the JM press, and I also don't go on the lower side of the rep range, because I also feel the position can be a bit compromising for you with the bar just in front of your neck, right? Then for the core and the legs, we start with the Romanian deadlift. I think 8 is a good minimum to stick to for a while at least, and then up to 15. Then we have the leg extension, and obviously what's gonna stand out here is the medium day, where you have 3 rest poses, and this is gonna destroy your quads and your sole. If you have ever done it, you know just how much it burns. And then for the abs, I only put 1 set of each exercise, but since we have 2 of them, that's 2 sets for the abs on each day. Except on the medium day, we have 2 sets for the wood choppers. Obviously, you can adapt all of this depending on your goal physique and what you prefer. So you can now see on the screen the overall weekly volume, counting the rest poses, and also the volume for each day, which is 35 sets. There's a decent amount of volume for the core and the legs, but of course the arms, traps and delts get the highest amount of sets. I will copy paste the numbers in the pinned comments and the description. And also, if you want to follow the program but you are more into phones and apps, I will copy paste it on Boostcamp. It's a free app and you can find the program there for free. I will put the link in the description. Overall, if you don't train in a too busy gym and you can superset many of the exercises, it should take around 1 hour to maybe 1 hour and a half max, I would say. If you need more time, just be careful, because once you start to train for say 2 hours, it becomes tough to recover. Your cortisol just shoots up. And yeah, speaking of recovery, of course, the program is just one part of the equation. Just also make sure that you rest enough, that your nutrition is on point, eat enough protein, 1 gram per pound of body weight, 2 grams per kilogram of body weight. Make sure you eat quality fats, quality carbs, whole foods as much as you can. Probably take some supplements. If you live up north, like I do, you should probably supplement in vitamin D, and then things like zinc, magnesium, omega-3s as well. And speaking of the diet, of course, there is the question of the body fat. You probably would like to sustain the physique around 15 to even 20% body fat. The advantage of that is that it's also comfortable to maintain and keep growing. Besides, it's also very possible to see your abs with this amount of body fat. I will make a video about it as well. So that's it for this video. This was an overview. I didn't want to make it too long. But obviously, if you have any question about it, or if you also want to ask me anything else about my fitness journey and experience, and maybe you have some ideas about things you would like me to discuss, don't hesitate to put a comment. Don't forget to put a like and to subscribe for more. Thank you.